talking about this being a lung issue to now being blood and heart and all the different aspects that are coming up now. You made a comment about intubation of patients. I want to be able to follow up on that a little bit. Are you suggesting that we're using too many ventilators, that we're using the wrong process, that we're using intubation too often? What has changed in what you have seen in the process of taking care of patients?
Terrific. That's a terrific question. Okay, so let me tell you what I've understood, and again, I don't want to claim to be the world expert, but I will tell you I've been talking every day for 6 weeks to people all around the world, and mostly in New York. Here's the issue: is that when this disease first presented, all the doctors were quite intimidated because there were so many reports of like this acute respiratory failure where patients could not breathe on their own. And so a lot of systems and a lot of institutions, they decided to adopt these early intubation protocols. Whereas traditionally, when we see someone who's having difficulty breathing or in respiratory distress, it's a challenge. I'm a pulmonologist and a critical care doctor. I have never in my career been able to decide when to intubate someone. It's a chronic challenge because you don't want to intubate too early and you don't want to intubate too late. Because if you intubate too late, sometimes it leads to cardiac arrest and it leads to very poor outcomes of the patients. If you intubate too early, you might put someone on a mechanical ventilator in which the harms of mechanical ventilation will be profound, whereas you could have avoided that if you didn't intubate. And so that I just want to say that's the core challenge of my specialty. When COVID came along, it was just it's weird the reports coming out of China and Italy about how non-invasive ventilation and other respiratory support structures were failing. Many people in this country, around the world, around the country, said, you know what, the best thing is to intubate them early. They're going to fail. Let's intubate them early and protect them. And that's what happened a month and a half ago. I fought against that. I thought it was going to be harmful to intubate patients too early, although the severity and acuity of this disease and how rapidly it progresses, we really didn't know. But I was on the phone every day talking to patients, talking to my colleagues around the country, asking them what they were seeing. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to finish with this, is that most centers around the country, I believe, adopted early intubation protocols in which they put patients on ventilators probably, and they thought safely before they needed to. But that led to untold harms. Now, what I'm seeing in New York City is unbelievable. I am seeing in my hospital here that I'm working at is we have a tolerance to avoid intubation to the extremes. These patients are being supported with oxygen support, non-invasive ventilation, and we're avoiding intubation because the outcomes after you put them on an invasive mechanical ventilator are really, really dismal. And so we're trying to avoid that at all costs. And so it's really a moving target, and we're evolving in how we approach this. But it's a challenge. I don't know that we're getting it right, but all I can tell you is I think we got it wrong in the beginning, but we're doing much better now.
Okay. That's extremely helpful. I really do appreciate the insight on that because you've got a chance to be able to see, obviously, a lot of patients in a path that you're seeing for care. And I'm grateful for folks that are early on trying to be able to work through to be able to solve this. You're going to be able to share a lot of wisdom and insight to a lot of other folks. Let me shift to something that Dr. Katz had mentioned before. Dr. Katz, you had mentioned something about a unique moment to deal with the health of Americans. You could drill down on that. Obviously, there's a lot of conversation about diabetes and being overweight and deal with greater heart strength through exercise and such. Is that what you're talking about as a part of being preventative on this disease? Or are you suggesting that what you're seeing in COVID-19, you're less likely to be able to face the severity of the symptoms in COVID-19 if you're doing exercise, if you're taking vitamins, if you're eating healthier, if you get your weight down? Is that what you're suggesting?
All of the above, Senator, and thank you. And actually, I think this relates back to a question Senator Romney raised a little bit ago. Why were we seeing higher rates of severe disease among people working in a meatpacking plant?
Right.
There really is a perfect storm of confluence where the portion of the population most harmed by unemployment because they were living hand to mouth and struggling most perhaps to access the medical system and most burdened with those chronic diseases that sadly are all hyperendemic in the United States: obesity, type 2 diabetes, heart disease, all occur in the same population. And so I think among the strategies we have to adopt, and there really is an opportunity here at the federal level to provide leadership, I think we've been relatively, if I may say it, contemptuous of chronic disease simply because it's chronic. The human nervous system is sort of hardwired to perceive threats that come at us fast. The fight or flight response, right? It's something that's coming at you in seconds, minutes, hours, maybe days, activates your adrenal gland, gets your attention. Well, COVID has it. Everybody's fixated on this. But a large segment, I actually shared via the chat function a paper that colleagues and I just pre-published today, looking at the prevalence in the United States of these chronic disease liabilities that increase the acute risk for severe COVID infection. So that's exactly what I'm saying. These things are hyperendemic, but the good news is dietary practices can modify immune function, improve immune balance in a matter of hours, significantly in a matter of just days, and profoundly in weeks. Control of type 2 diabetes can be improved significantly with lifestyle intervention over a very short period of time. Blood pressure can be lowered. Inflammatory states can be mitigated. So the very same things we maybe should have been thinking about before to make America healthier now really becomes a matter of acute defense against COVID. I think we can also use, in addition to representative random sampling to get a good understanding of the national data, we actually can use risk calculators to determine what is the risk of severe infection, hospitalization, ICU need, or even death at the individual level, and then offer up resources to individuals by various means, some via the internet, but all the resources at our collective disposal to empower people while they're sheltering in place as we transition to the next phase of policy, actually acutely lower their risk. A sizable portion of our population could shift from the higher risk group because of their current state with regard to chronic disease and weight and inflammation, and migrate down to a lower risk group by using lifestyle as medicine. I don't think there's ever been a better opportunity. And frankly, we think about the health of the population both acutely and chronically. This is clearly a homeland security issue, so this is a great place to take up that mantle.